Okay. So yesterday's class, we have seen the trait leadership. We have seen behavior leadership. Today, we will look into contingency theories of leadership. So contingency theory is nothing but leadership in different situations. So while we try to understand the trait and behavior theories uh, of leadership, then there's another important factor: how does the environment or how does the situation affect the leadership? So this contingency theories offers this new dimension to our knowledge of leadership effectiveness. Now the contingency theory considers the context in which the leader can operate and look into the other factors from the environment and how effective can he or she be in a particular situation. Now, there are three key theories under the contingency theory or the situation based that will help us better understand what is leadership. So the first one is Fiedler's model. Then the next one is Hershey's and Blanchard's situation leadership theory. Then the path goal theory. Now, if we have to look at the Fiedler's model, so Fiedler's contingency theory states that for a leader to be effective, the leadership style which they possess should fit into that particular situation. So it's not like how the leader is modifying or how the situation fits into the leadership style, but it's how the leadership style fits into the situation. So Wilder believes that an individual's basic leadership style is critical aspect in leadership success. To understand the different leadership styles, he developed an instrument called the least preferred coworker questionnaire. So in this questionnaire, he wanted to identify what are the basic leadership styles that an individual can possess. And there were like 16 adjectives in this particular questionnaire. Like they were something like this pleasant, unpleasantness, efficient, non-efficient, supportive, hostile. So these are the different adjectives that were used in this particular questionnaire. So Wilder believes that the respondent's basic leadership style was based on the response to this LPC questionnaire. If the least preferred coworker is described in reasonable positive manner, then it is a high LPC score. And if the respondent has answered something like maintaining strong personal relationship with his co-workers and classified as relationship oriented, then that would come as a least co-worker or unfavorable, and that person would have scored low on the LPC scale. So Wilder believed, he used this scale to understand the different leadership styles of an individual. So Wilder believed that a person's leadership style is fixed and that you cannot change it to match the different situations or the changing circumstances. If a scenario, which requires a task-oriented leader, but the individual in the leadership position is relationship-oriented, then either he wanted the leader to change or he wanted the situation to be changed. So obviously the situation cannot change. So if it is a task oriented situation and if it was a person with a leadership style of a relationship orientation, then obviously he would not fit in that particular situation. So that leader would not be able to function better, would not be able to perform, would not be able to enhance the effectiveness of his team. So hence, it was preferred that in that particular situation, if it is a task oriented scenario, then it was always preferred that a task oriented leadership quality, a person who possesses this quality, would be required for this particular situation. So contingency theory overall, by definition, avoids the static rules, which like technology, competitions, government unions, new markets, consumers, and economic consideration are all these common situations that an organization must respond to, right? So there is always constant change in the economy. There's always change in the technology. I mean, we need to keep upgrading ourselves with the new technology. There's high level of competition out there in the market. And rather than being an organization should focus on customer orientation or customer centric organizations. A lot of people have come up with this. Now, many of the organizations are looking into sustainability. So in all these things, that is when, and these are the situation that has arisen, and a leader should be able to meet the demands of that particular situation. Hence, the leader should fit into the situation according to Fidler's theory. And if he's not able to perform well in that particular situation, that means he can be replaced, or another leader who is perfect for the situation can be brought in. So the most essential variable in determining the situation's favorableness is the leader-member connection. So the degree of task structure, which is second most essential factor, is determining the situation's favorableness. The third most essential facet of situation is the leader's position power, which is achieved through a formal authority. So to put it in very simple words, or in other words, in order to effectively manage a crisis situation or a challenging situation, leadership must be able to evaluate the situation. They should understand what the situation requires, identify what is the job structure required for that situation, and obtain a position of formal authority in that particular situation to handle the situation in a better manner. Now, there are three kinds of leadership styles if you look at according to your syllabus, and there are different leadership styles, but I'll just cover the ones which are there in your syllabus. So the first one is telling style. So this is a high task, low relationship style that works well with followers who are very young. So the leader establishes roles and specifies what to do, how to do, when to do, and who is responsible for each task that is being assigned. And, it's more of a commanding behavior, which is seen in the telling style. Then the next is the participating style, which you can say like, the democratic style. Telling style is like the authoritative style. So participating style, this is a low task, high relationship approach that works well when your followers are mature. The leader and followers both participate in decision making, with leader's primary job being to facilitate and communicate with the team members. Then the selling style, it's more like this is a high task and low relationship style that well works with the followers who are still young. And this selling style is both being directive as well as supportive behavior to the team members. So this kind of direction is given to them as well as support is given to the team members by the leader. Now, so before we move on, I also would like to give an example. So a manager dealing with an employee who is always late to work. Okay, so now this is one example of a situation-based scenario, or where we can apply the contingency theory to this particular situation. Generally, when a employee is late, the manager can deal with the situation in various ways, right? So a manager could create a documented process in which there is only one opinion, give the employee notice. this is one direct method how the manager can handle the situation. But from the situation viewpoint or contingency viewpoint, the manager can decide to gain a better understanding of why is this person always late. Why is that, is there some reason behind them being late? Is it because of uh, the traffic, or is it because they stay very far from the organization, or is it like their nature is always that they end up coming late? So first he needs to assess the particular situation rather than just taking a direct action on the employee who is always late, right? So the benefit in this is the manager gains some knowledge about the employee, and maybe once he understands the circumstances of the employee, why he's always late, he or the manager or the leader can take up the call on what to do. So if he feels like the reason for being late is reasonable and can be worked on that, then the manager can work on that. If he feels that the reason given is not valid, then the manager or the team leader or the leader can just tell the employee that this may not work out, and he can serve the notice which he was initially prepare a document and serve the notice to the employee with regards to that. So the ability of the leader to manage under a contingency perspective is determined by the nature of the environment and how the organization interacts with this particular environment. So contingency theory in the organization, if it is applied, then the organization structure is a fundamental component of the method that management may take in addressing difficulties or challenges that are faced by the organization and the employees. Now, coming to Feiler's cognitive resource theory. So Feiler and his colleagues had proposed the cognitive resource theory, a new contingency theory which focused on leaders' cognitive abilities. And this theory was developed in the year 1987. Now we saw the leadership style in different situations, right? How they can assess the situation and how they can evaluate the situation and take a course of action. But in this cognitive resource theory, they wanted to understand the cognitive abilities of an individual who would fit into the leadership style. So they hypothesized that the leader's cognitive abilities, such as intelligence, experience, and technical skills which they possess, have an impact on leadership effectiveness. So they assumed these three things: that leaders who are more intelligent and competent make more effective plans and judgments and action strategies than those leaders who are less clever and competent. Then looking at the other thing, they say leaders use directive behavior to express their plan, decision, and tactics. And it also looked into the leaders' experience, whether the leaders are based on the experience, how effective decisions can they make and how ineffective the decisions are made on the whole. So if a leader is directive and the group member are driven and supportive of the leader, then intelligence contributes are more significant to the group performance. But whereas if a leader's interaction with the superiors and the co-workers are stress-free, then his intellectual abilities correlate with the collective success. And if there is a positive association between job experience and performance in high stress situation, then these two factors, the other two factors also can contribute. Now, how can we apply the Feiler's theory? Now, first, the leader has to accommodate or adjust to the circumstances or the situation. If a group is in a bad condition and it is headed by a relationship-oriented manager, the group's performance could be improved by replacing the manager with the task-oriented manager. Because the oriented manager might look at what are the needs of the employees, what are the challenges that the employees are facing, and might want to be supportive to the employees and so on. But the situation demands task oriented leader, because now the group is in a bad position because they are not able to perform well, and a relationship oriented leader will not be able to justify in that particular situation. Whereas a task oriented leader might be able to help the team to perform better, help the team in addressing their challenges or issues faced in the situation where they are not able to achieve their goals. And in the second option is to adjust the situation to suit the leaders. So it could also accomplish through bettering leader-member interaction, reorganizing tasks, or raising or decreasing the leader's power, and spending more time or more casual time with the co-workers, as well as suggesting or enacting transfers of specific subordinates into or out of the unit are some of the suggested strategies to change leader-member relations. The leader may request a new unexpected challenges to reduce work structure, to raise job structure. A leader may also request more instructions and produce a thorough plan. The leader may become an expert on the work to increase position power, or the leader could also invite subordinates to participate in planning and decision making to reduce the position power. Yes. So, yeah. This was actually covered before. So situation theory of leadership, like we said, Fielder's theory suggests that certain leaders work best in certain environments because of their leadership style. Situational leadership theory argues that any leader can work best in an environment by changing their styles accordingly. So this is the whole theory of situation or contingency theory, that it is situation based, and as per the Fielder's theory, a leader can be more effective in any of the environment as long as he changes his leadership style with the demanding situations. We have I've already spoken about the leadership styles. Now, moving on to the next theory in the situation or contingency theories is house path goal theory. So, yesterday we had spoken about Ohio's and Michigan's theory, right? When we were doing the behavior. So this house paths goal theory is built upon the Ohio State studies, and also if you have already completed the theories of motivation, Victor Vroom's theory. So this house paths goal theory is built upon Ohio State studies as well as Victor Vroom's motivational theory of expectancy to understand the situation. So the path goal theory of leadership states that leadership style changes according to the situation a person is in. Leaders adopt a particular path, which is known as style. Okay, leaders adopt a style based on the situation, intending to achieve a goal or the objective. So the leaders are more flexible in this theory, according to this theory, and they can change their styles depending on the situation they are in. So this theory proposes two factors: environmental factors as well as team characteristics. And so the person who developed this path goal theory, his full name is Robert House. So that's why it's known as House's path goal theory. Robert House developed this theory, which was based on the Victor Vroom's expectancy theory of motivation. And according to this theory, in a gist of it, an individual will behave or act in a particular way because they are motivated to select a particular behavior or a specific behavior in response to a particular situation. For example, if a team is unable to meet the goals within their timeline, a leader will become more involved in the process. If a team is not able to perform better, the leader will involve in the entire process to understand why the team is not able to perform better and changes its leadership style according to the situation. A team may be performing well, but there might be conflicts within the team. There might not be team effectiveness or team bonding, which happens here. Then the leader changes his leadership style, where he becomes employee oriented or people oriented, so that he can build his team so that there's high team effectiveness and high team bonding among the team members. Now, the four types of leadership identified by the House Path Goal Theory are directive, supportive, participative, and achievement. So what is directive leadership? It focuses on the work to be done. So in this particular style, leaders understand what exactly needs to be done, how many tasks are to be carried out, and the best way to meet the deadlines. Okay, leaders here in this style, they create a framework that directs their team towards the objective. In addition to communicating the expectations, a leader also explains to others how to perform a task efficiently and effectively. So this management style is ideal for inexperienced team members who need guidance and support, where always a direction is given and they can seek support from a particular leader. The next is supportive leadership style. This focuses on the well-being of the worker. So here, it's very easy to write these answers. As the name suggests, directive is probably giving directions and getting work done. Supportive is seeking support. So here in supportive leadership style, the leaders create an environment which is friendly, or or where the well-being is more concentrated on among the co-workers. So here the leader possesses empathetic and supportive skills and is and provides supports whenever the team requires. An example of this could be like a supportive leader will entrust their team with responsibilities and improve employee engagement to increase the job satisfaction. Because if employee engagement is not happening, then obviously they'll just come, work and go, and then they might not enjoy the work and they might want to leave the organization, because all they do is come, work, they don't interact much with each other. So here the leader tries to create an overall environment where there is overall employee well-being, be it like physical, mental, or even emotional. The next one is achievement oriented leadership. So sets challenging goals. It's, as the name says, achievement is being more ambitious in nature. So here the leaders expect the highest form of achievement, and they also motivate others to attain or achieve the highest form of goals and perform excellently. So here there are deadlines given. The priority is given to deadlines. Challenging goals are set, and they aim for consistent improvements to achieve these goals. It's not like there's only one path set, and then they would want to move ahead and move on to the other one. No, it's not just the one way they keep working. They improvise on the way of working also to attain the goals. They have full confidence in the team, in the team's efficiency, productivity, and problem solving skills also. And because the managers delegate responsibility, they also because they trust the employees here, they also delegate more responsibilities to the employees. The next one is participative leadership style, which is where, as the name suggests, like they include the leaders include the employees in the decision makings and other aspects of the project. So participative consults with employee in decision making. So leader think that it's crucial to engage and involve employees in the decision making process. They work with the team members. They are okay or open to the ideas given by the team members. They look into the strategies given by the team members, and together they work out what works best for the organization. So the participative leader acts friendly with the co-workers and is open to suggestions and discussions with the team, how the organization goals can be achieved and how the performance can be enhanced. And an example of showing the participative leadership style is having a meeting and having brainstorming sessions with the employees for the new projects, where all of them come together, discuss ideas, then work out on an idea that works best for the particular project. So yeah, the next one is the nurture and task leadership.
One question, like in situational theory of leadership and path goal theory of leadership, at a very high level, it looks like both are same. Like basically, the leadership style is changed according to the contingency or according to the situation, and thereby leading the team. So, what is the significant differentiating factor between these two theories?
It's okay. There are pros and cons of both the theories. So, when it comes to Feiler's theory, he worked on the questionnaire and he said that only these with the leadership style, they can change to the situation. If they are not able to adapt according to the situation, then they'll have to be removed. Now, the house parts goal theory, he built up again on the Feiler's theory, and he said like a leader possesses all the styles. It's just that they have to change the style of leadership according to the situation. But whereas, according to Feiler, they possess a particular style. If they are not able to change the leadership style according to the situation, then the leader themselves they have to be changed.
And my question was not the difference between Feidler's and House's theory. I asked about like difference between Hersey and Blanchard and this Robert House's theory. Like these two, the first one seems to be like distinct from other two, but the second and third one seems to be like similar, because both of them talk about changing the leadership styles based on the contingency. So it's not about
Hershey's and Blanchard's situational leadership theory, right?
Yes, the second one and third one, in the theories that we discussed right now, the second one is basically situational theory of leadership, and third one is path goal theory. Both of them talk about like the leadership has to be changed. The style of the leadership has to be changed based on the contingency or the situation, right? So I'm just trying to understand like how both of them are different, like how these theories are, are they inferring the same thing to us, or are they like what is the distinct features of both the theories?
They are inferring the same thing. There's no difference. It's just that both of them have given their own perspectives about the theory. It's basically the same thing. What they are.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the next leadership style, nurture and task leadership. So here, a nurturant leader is someone who structures his or her own and also the co-workers' expectations and roles, which focus on the task completion. So it is not only about them they look at, or it's not only the employees or the co-workers they look at. They consider themselves as well as the subordinates to focus on a task completion. Here, the leader instructs and guides his co-workers or the subordinates under his leadership. Communication is clear, It's disciplined and very much task specific. Responsibilities here are identified and decision-making areas are aligned with them. And the leader also displays concerns for a subordinate, expresses affection to them, and expresses interest in their well-being as well. And most importantly, the leader here teaches them that they may mature with completing the task and develop stronger job skills and dedication. So this means that they have to be, they look at the overall well-being of employees, whether it is task, whether it is well-being, or whether it is, growing along with the work what they do, in terms of like learning new skills, in terms of training them, in terms of helping them achieve goals, and so on. A leader, along with the subordinates, performs all the tasks together.
So can we consider that he will be not only a leader, but also the mentor of the subordinate?
A guide, a mentor, yes.
Okay.
The next leadership style, or the next leadership style which we can talk about, is a charismatic leadership. So in Greek, charisma means gift. Okay, when one speaks of charismatic leadership, we refer to somebody who possesses particular qualities or abilities that we are impressed with. So rather than using force or authority, this particular leader, that is the charismatic leader, will acquire supporters based on his or her personalities, because uh, they possess their personality skills, they possess the qualities in them, the abilities in them, which the supporters like, and that is how they build their supporters or followers. The essential attributes connected with the charismatic leader are examined here, if you look at it. Then a vision is defined as an idealized aim which is required for the leader. Then again, to fulfill the vision, the leader must be willing to take risk. This one, willing to take personal risk and self-sacrifice. In doing so, the leader must also be sensitive to the followers and their requirements for any task. And throughout this process, the leader must exhibit behaviors that are seen out of ordinary. So all these four are very much important, are essential attributes of a charismatic leader. So how does a charismatic leader influence the follower? So the 4-step procedure can help the charismatic leader use their attributes to influence the follower according to some of the researches that were conducted. Now, the first, the leader lays out a long-term plan for accomplishing a goal, which is a vision. Then the strategy should be in line with the organization vision and distinguishing characteristics. The leader then must formalize his or her concept by writing a vision statement. This phrase is frequently used by the charismatic leader to underline the organization's objective and purpose. And the vision is conveyed in a way that reflects the leader's enthusiasm and dedication to the goal. Then after this, the leader will next use his words or deeds to instill a new set of ideals in his followers, and will look for will then look for behaviors that show dedication to the vision. They will adopt behaviors that will allow the followers to catch the feeling of the leader is expressing and aid gaining in the followers buy-in. So it is, and overall, to sum it up, finally, to assist followers catch the vision, the leader participates in emotional inducing and often unusual conduct of display courage, conviction about the goal. So first they look at the vision, they take the personal risk, they develop the vision statement, then they look into the sensitivity of the followers and their requirements, and some of the unconventional behaviors can be seen and modified accordingly. Now, the key characteristics of the charismatic leader here are vision and articulation. So the leader has a vision. The same thing here, I've just given it in detail. The leader has a vision, has expressed an idealized goal, the process a future better than the status quo, and is able to clarify the importance of the vision in terms that are understandable to others. So he explains the vision very clearly so that the subordinates are able to understand, or the followers are able to understand it. Then he is willing to take on a high personal risk, incur high cost, and engage in high sacrifice to achieve that particular vision. He is also willing to look at the perspective of others and also responds to the others' needs, requirements, and feelings. And he engages in the behaviors that are perceived as novel and counter to norms. So this was about charismatic leadership style. Now moving on to the next one, which is transformal leaders. So transformal leaders, in this we can see that it can be divided into transactional and transformal. So what is transactional and transformer leaders? So transactional leaders are concerned about the status quo, while transformer leaders are more change oriented. And transactional leadership works with set of goals and bound or with the organization boundaries, while the transformal approach challenges the status quo and is more future oriented. So transactional leadership emphasizes on organization performance evaluation and reward, and is task oriented and outcome oriented, while transformal leadership focuses on motivation and engaging followers with a vision of future. So transaction leaders basically focus on the role of supervision, organization, and group performance. They are concerned about the status quo and day-to-day progress towards a goal, while transformational leaders work to enhance the motivation and engagement of the followers by directing their behavior towards a shared particular vision. While transactional leadership operates within the existing boundary of the organization, be it structures or goals, transformer leadership challenge the current state and are open to change. Characteristics of transactional and transformal leadership. Transactional, contingent reward, contracts exchange of reward for effort, promises reward for good performance, recognizes accomplishment. Then management by exception, being active, watches and searches for deviations from rules and standards, take corrective actions whenever there's required. The passive way, intervenes only if standards are not met. Otherwise, they let the subordinates work on whatever they want to work. Laissez-faire. So, does not interfere much and tries to avoid making decisions unless and until it is required. Whereas in transformational leadership, they are idealized influence. So they provide a vision, sense, mission, gains respect and trust from the subordinates. Inspirational motivation, they communicate high expectations, uses symbols to focus efforts, express important purpose in a simpler manner. They are also open to change, and whenever change is required, they are willing to change, transform, and adapt to a particular change. And intellectual wise, they promote intelligence, rationality, and careful problem solving methods. And if you look at the individual consideration, they give personal attention, treats each employee individually, coaches and advisors as well. Just give me 2 minutes. Sorry. Yeah, so this was about transactional and transformational leadership. Now, talking about ethics and leadership. So ethical leadership entails knowing and doing what is morally correct. Ethics means doing something what is right. Doing something that is right according to the society, which is morally correct as well. So ethical leadership is divided into two parts. First one, the leader must act and make the judgments in an ethical manner, while the second one is lead as an example in terms of attitude and interaction. The leader must be fair to everybody. The leader must not be biased. The leader must be transparent whenever required. The leader must explain, supposingly an employee comes or a team member comes to the leader and questions them on certain things, must be willing to explain them and be transparent based on whatever the requirement is. In case in terms of performance evaluation as well, in case an employee comes to the leader and checks with them of why they have been rated low or moderate, the leader must be able to explain and justify his rating rather than just giving or being biased or giving somebody more extra points just because he or she knows them personally or outside. So there are a lot of other ethics as well, which the leadership could cover. I mean, a leader could look into, but the bottom line is the leader should be morally correct and should do what is accepted by the society. Okay. So any questions or doubts still here? Okay, I take it as a no. And we move on to the next one, conflict. Now, so we have completed leadership styles. Now, moving on to conflict. What is conflict according to you all?
Difference of opinion.
Difference of opinions, correct.
Tug of war between two things.
Okay, good. Anything else? Okay, what is negotiation?
Like bargain.
Bargain, okay. And what else?
Persuasion.
Persuasion, okay. So the reason why conflict and negotiation are put together is because when conflict arises, to resolve a particular conflict, there are many strategies. Conflict resolution, I think in the next chapter we will study anyways. But negotiation is also a part of conflict management. And in this particular unit, we'll see what is conflict, what is negotiation, and we'll also look into traditional view, human relations view, and interactionist view of conflict. So conflict is defined as a process that begins with one party perceives that another party has negatively affected or is about to negatively affect something that the first party cares about. So conflict is a process that involves people disagreeing with each other. And there have been researches that have been conducted which have noted that conflict is like a common cold. They say, like, everyone knows what it is, understands its causes, and how to treat it, how to treat that challenge is how to treat that particular conflict is much more challenging, because sometimes the other party might not want to agree with it. The other party might not be comfortable with the ideas that is given, or you might not be comfortable with the ideas that has been given. So in organizations, conflict is a state of discord caused by the actual or perceived oppositions of need, values, and or interests between people who are working together. Conflict on teams takes many forms and can be minor conflicts as well as major conflicts. Minor conflicts cause brief disruption in the work, in the relationship, while the major conflict causes like threatening the team's ability to function effectively and to attain the team's goals. So minor conflict, they might just have small bitter arguments or exchange of words. But if it is a major conflict, then definitely the team bonding is broken over there, and the effectiveness of team is also less. So uh, yeah, so the conflict when arises, then definitely employees experience in compatibility of goals, differences over interpretation of facts, disagreements on behavior, expectations, and so on. Coming to type of conflict, so now, there are different types of conflicts, but I'm only covering what is there in your syllabus. Okay. Otherwise, it's interpersonal, intrapersonal, personal, group conflict, intergroup, intra-group conflict. All these things have also covered. Coming to open conflict is also known as unresolved conflict. So, open conflict is highly visible conflict with profound origins. It arises when individuals' interests are incompatible, as evidenced by aggressive behavior. So it is more like than others categorized to cause social, psychological, and environmental disruptions or harm to the environment. Even those who are not directly participating in the fight are also affected in the open conflict, because it's not resolved and there's always this disagreement between individuals. There's always this tension between the individuals that arises. The next is latent conflict or conflict that has not surfaced. I would say this is one of the dangerous conflict because it's happening inside within, but it's not coming out. So despite the fact that people have competing interests, they do not act in an aggressive manner. This is simmering issue that if this conflict is unresolved, then definitely it will erupt into an open conflict and it becomes more aggressive in nature. So it should be sorted out if or it should be sorted out then and there, or let it not come out as a open conflict. The next is pseudo or false conflict. Can somebody please mute yourself, whoever the microphone is out? Thank you. Pseudo conflict or the false conflict, as the name suggests. So misunderstandings and miscommunications of interest or viewpoints are the cause of this particular conflict. It does not have to be, something very serious. It need not have to be something which is deep. So improved communications and conscious attempt by opposing parties to understand each other's needs and viewpoints can help with this particular conflict. A very simple example of this could be two co-workers are working on a particular project and suddenly the manager calls one of them and gives them some extra work, which the other employee may not be knowing it. Then the other the co-worker who has not got the work might be thinking that this person is doing something extra for the promotion bit or something. So because there has not been any communication between these two, the other co-worker is assuming that this person is getting extra work and may be promoted for that particular reason, and he is not getting extra work, so maybe he is not able to get promoted. So this might cause conflict. But if there's an open communication between the two co-workers, that, the manager had called him and because he's not able to do the work and he has given him for now and he has offered him whatever, it is to do the extra work, then, this false conflict may not arise. The next one is intra-individual conflict. Here, it's the interpersonal form of conflict which arises due to frustration, divergent goals, diversified roles, and ambiguity in terms of goal conflict, role conflict, and ambiguity or frustration. So what is goal conflict? It arises when a goal including both positive and negative aspect, and when the person has more than one goal that are obstructing each other to compete. So goal conflict can be divided again into many categories as well. I'm not going deep into that. So coming to role conflict and ambiguity, this exists when individuals is expected to play various roles and clash therefrom. So there are three types of role conflict. Uh, the person and the role. Here, there may be conflict between the person's personality and the expectation of a role. Like for example, I have a personality of, you know, working really hard, and the job what I get is where I don't really have to work. I just have to come, sit and go. Then the conflict arises because the expectation is something and my personality is something, and I'm not able to I'm not able to justify. Then intra-role conflict is another one where it involves contradictory expectations about how a given role should be played. Example, uh, to be an autocratic or democratic leader in dealing with the team members. You know, these are like contradictory expectations. I can't be autocratic as well as democratic at the same time. Then inter-role conflict, it results from differing requirements of two or more roles that must be played at the same time. So I can't be a manager as well as I can't be a supervisor, and I can't play a role of a team member also. So I have to learn to differentiate my roles as into three things. Then frustration. It occurs when goal-directed behavior is blocked before a desired goal is reached. So the barriers may be very much outward or overt in nature, or physical, or covert or inward, which could also be like psychological. So I might be frustrated because I'm not able to cope with the work, or I'm not liking the work, or it could be that resources are not provided to me and I'm not able to do my work, and hence I am angry because of that reason, or the resources that are provided to me are not working properly. So, or the resources provided to me is something to my coworker is better than what I have. So these are like outward conflicts. The next one, interpersonal conflict. Interpersonal conflict is among individuals such as co-workers, a manager and an employee, or a CEO and the staff. So their personal differences, as no one has the same family background, education and values, the differences can be a major source of conflict because their way of thinking can be different and my way of thinking can be different. I may be coming from a different background from, let's take culture into consideration. So, US may come from a different background, and Indian citizen may be for different background, and conflicts may arise in terms of some kind of situations or some kind of talks that have happened that may not be okay with each other. Then informational deficiency is another part of interpersonal conflict, and this results from communication breakdown in the organization. The people in conflict may have misinformation. Unlike personal differences, it's not emotionally charged. It is only like based on the communication requirements. Then role incompatibility. These types of conflicts draws from both intrapersonal role conflict and intergroup role conflict. Then the environmental stress. So these type of conflicts arise due to stressful environmental conditions like scarcity of resources, downsizing of the company, pressure on the employees, or there is like a lot of uncertainty which can be seen. I also want to cover intergroup conflict because since we are anyways talking about teams and all that, I thought we could cover group conflict. So again, there's intra-group, that is within the group, intergroup, but that is between two groups. So competition for resources, task interdependence, jurisdictional ambiguity, status struggles are recognized as some of the antecedents of the intergroup conflict. So resource competition, organization have extremely restricted budgetary resources, space, equipment, manpower, supplies, all these are like in limited supply. So they could to one group and the other group may start having conflicts because of these reasons. Then it could also be due to task interdependence, where two groups are in an organization rely on one another. If one group is not able to complete the task on time, the other group may not proceed further because uh, the first group has not done their work properly or have not completed the work on time. Hence, the work of the second group is being delayed. So when the groups are not dependent of one another, are independent of one another, then there will be like less conflict. Jurisdictional ambiguity. So this could include the turf issues and overlapping jurisdictions. Status struggles. The conflict arises when one group tries to improve its status while the other group tries to, standardize or maintain that particular status. And while the other group sees this as a challenge to its status inside the organization, it may appear in a different way to another group in terms of advantages, awards given, or work circumstances, and how they are treated unequally. So there's always a comparison between the groups that is being seen. Now, talking about sources of conflict. Before we look at these sources, can I ask the class, what are the sources of conflict according to you all?
It is intrapersonal, interpersonal, environmental, that is individual or external in general.
Okay. So I have
lack of understanding, lack of communication gaps.
Very good. Communication gaps, yes.
No clear roles and responsibilities.
Roles, responsibilities, competency, skills, correct. And could I say even personality differences?
Yes.
Right. So there are like
adjustment issues can happen versus expectation of the organization.
Excellent point. Yeah.
Even like demographic differences also may arise into conflict, like age, sex, race, etc.
Yes, age, gender, race, ethnicity, all these also can contribute to conflicts. Yeah. So yeah, good. So apart from whatever is there in your syllabus, I thought I could add more to the sources of conflict. So first, let's look at organization structure. So conflict tends to make different forms depending upon the organization structure. For example, if a company is using a matrix structure as its organizational form, it will have decisional conflict built in because the structure specifies that each manager report to two bosses. You all know what is matrix structure, right? You must have done organizational structure. Okay, so another example of organizational structure is, supposingly you have you're working in the department of let's say production, okay, and you have to report to like three bosses. One is the production manager, one is the technical manager, and the other one could be the communication manager. So sometimes it becomes difficult for you to report to all the three bosses. Sometimes there could be communication gap. You might just end up reporting to the technical manager and forget to report to the production manager, so he doesn't know what is happening. Sometimes you might end up reporting to the communication manager and the technical manager and forget about the production manager. So these are the other sources where conflict can arise. Then the next one is limited resources. So resources could be anything, like it could be equipments, instruments you're working with, money, time, the materials that are required, and if they are limited, and you are not able to perform your job because of the limited resources, it could also be manpower. So that again leads to conflict. So competition among people or departments for limited resources is a frequent cause for conflict. For example, like uh, uh, let's say like the laptops and cutting edge with laptop and gadgets such as iPhone are expensive resources that may be given to some of the some of the employees or some of the group members in a team, while because there's a requirement for them to do a job, and they don't give this to the other employees. So conflict may arise among employees between among employees and the management because of this particular reason. Because technically, everybody needs a laptop to work. So why only few of them have been given and few of them have not been given? Why only a few of them have been offered phones along with the laptops, and why I have not got a phone? I'm supposed to use my personal phone for work and my personal laptop for work, and why I haven't been given? So, these could also be limited resources that may result in conflict. Because now, we started work from home because of the pandemic, right? It's been almost 2 years now. So what if the organizations had not provided laptops and computers and desktops and chair like the office setup to employees? What if the organization had provided it to only few of the employees who are senior associate level and upwards, and ignore the junior associate level and the freshers? What if this was done? Then obviously there would be conflict that would arise. So moving on to the task interdependence. Another cause of conflict is task interdependence. That is, when accomplishment of your goal requires reliance on others to perform their task. Like, for example, if you're tasked with creating advertising for your products, you are dependent on the creative teams to design the words and design the layout and give you a nice picture, a nice video for the visuals, and the media buyer to purchase the advertising space, and so on. So in case if something goes wrong in between, like the creative team has not done the design properly, or because of the creative team has delayed in providing the output of the product or the video, the media team denied to buy your product. So again, the conflict could arise because of the task. Because one person didn't do the task properly or on time, then the other team was impacted or affected, and thus there is a conflict between these two teams. The next one is incompatible goals. So sometimes conflict arises when two parties think that their goals are mutually exclusive. Within an organization, incompatible goals often arise because of the different ways department managers are compensated. For example, a sales manager's bonus may be tied to how many sales are made for the company. So because of that, the individual might be tempted to offer customers some free goodies, such as expedited delivery, 1 day delivery, or 4 hours delivery in order to make the sales. But whereas the other employees who are not given these options might again face problems, or come and have conflict with these previous ones. The next one is personality differences. Personality differences among co-workers are very much common, which can be observed in all the organizations. So one may mean something, one may behave in a particular way, and the other person may not like it or not comfortable with it. So by understanding some fundamental differences among the way people think and act, we need to understand how others see the world. So looking at it from the other's perspective is also equally important to avoid the personality differences. So one person may be outgoing and may indulge in talking to everybody, then the other person might not be okay with it. Like, times have changed now, but if you look at it, a girl going and talking to a lot of boys in a class, then the other girls who are not comfortable with it may not like that girl or look at that girl from a different viewpoint. So this is one basic example of personality differences. Then communication problem. Sometimes conflict arises simply out of a small unintentional communication problem, such as something was to be communicated via email, and they must have missed seeing the email, so they were not there on time. It could be dealing with people who do not answer the phone calls or do not call back. These and hence the communication could not be done properly for all these because of all these reasons. Giving feedback is also a case in which the best intentions can quickly escalate into conflict situations. So for example, like, you might not be willing to take any feedback, and supposingly I give a constructive feedback to you and it doesn't go well with you, then you may not like me. You may have some kind of conflict with me just because I gave you a feedback. So when communicating, we need to make sure that we focus how that would affect the behavior and behavior of the person and the situation, and uh, not only the person alone. So these were some of the sources of conflict. Moving on to negotiation. So negotiation is a common way that two parties deal with conflict via negotiation. Negotiation is a process where two or more parties work towards an agreement, a common agreement or service. So there are two types of negotiation: distributive negotiation, or which is also known as positional bargaining or competitive bargaining, and integrative negotiation, which is also known as interest-based bargaining. So if you are looking at distributive view of negotiation, this is the traditional way of negotiation. It is also known as like a traditional fixed pie approach. So in this, the negotiators see the particular situation and as a pie. You all know pie, right? You must have heard about pies, apple pie, and so on. So the negotiator sees the situation as a pie, and the they divide that they divide that particular pie between them. So each tries to get more of the pie and win. Like, for example, managers may compete over shares of budget. Like, the budget is given to an organization every year. So in the budget, there are, again, in an organization, there are different departments. Each department or each processes, I would say. So each process has a manager. So if an organization gives a fixed budget, then each manager, instead of dividing the budget equally, they might want, some of them might require more budget, some of them might require less. So that is how they try to share the budget. So if the marketing process gets a 10% increase in its budget, then another department, could be like research and development, they will need to decrease their budget by 10%. So why? Because the marketing process has taken like 10% extra. So focusing on this, they might want to negotiate to avoid the conflict. They might want to negotiate. So the marketing team can tell them, like, this year there are like certain things that we want to plan, hence we are taking. Next year you can take the extra 10% budget, and I will not take it. I will not try and claim it from our end. So this is again negotiating or an agreement to avoid the conflict. Now, talking about integrative or negotiation or interest-based bargaining, this is a very recent approach and a very creative approach to negotiation. So in this approach, both parties look for ways to integrate their goals under a large umbrella. That is, they look at the ways to expand the pie so each party gets more. This is a way in which, you know, both the parties are in a win-win situation. The first step here in this particular approach is to enter the negotiation from a cooperative rather than an adversive stance. The second step is all about listening. Listening develops trust as each party learns that the others wants everyone involved arrives at a mutual understanding. Then all parties can explore ways to achieve the individual goals. And the general idea is, if all of us work together, we can find a solution which is agreeable to all of them. This is about integrated conflict. Now, transition and conflict thought. So, you know, conflict. Now, before we start this, I'd like to ask the class, what is your idea of conflict? Is it good or is it bad?
I think it will work out both ways.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think I won't be, I won't say it is good or bad, but in the process of our employment, or when we have taken, I mean, with respect to organization, when we take up a job, there would be a lot of issues, right, internally or out of the situation. So they arise, and how we resolve it through better adjustment, through better insight is what we need to focus upon, is what I think. There's nothing like good or bad, because they arise from the point of view of either lack of understanding of something, that is having no better perspective about it, or lack of knowledge. So
Good, good. So, you know, the way we are speaking today, it's more of an interactionalist view of conflict, I would say. But if you look at the traditional view of conflict, way back before before the industrial revolution and all that, I'm talking about the before era, then the traditional view of conflict was that conflict is bad, it's harmful, and it always has to be avoided. Okay. And they believed that the causes of conflict was because of poor communication, lack of openness, failure to respond to employee needs. So there was no transparency. They could not communicate the needs and requirements properly, and they could not meet the needs or demands of the employees. So because of this, the conflicts arise, and it was always believed that it had to be avoided at any circumstances. Then came the human relations view of conflict, which thought that conflict was natural and it was inevitable, and it could happen anytime with anyone within any group. Okay, so when there is a group, they said that there will be a conflict. If there is a team, they thought that there will be a conflict. So this was the view of the human relations. And if we look at the interactionist view of conflict, they believed that conflict was not only positive force in a group, but it is necessary for a group to perform effectively. So they thought like only if there is conflict, they would perform better. Conflict is required for an individual to perform better because it acts as a driving positive force to achieve higher goals. So according to the interactionist view, they thought like conflict would create competitions, and that's the reason that they would want to perform outdo each other, be it like team or groups or individuals. Hence they would put in extra effort, hence they would perform better. And obviously if the team is performing better, be it for like personal sake or because of the conflict or any other reason, the output is definitely better. So the interactionist view thought that conflict is a good thing, and it's a positive drive force to perform effectively in a team. So to sum it all up, to sum up the three types of conflict, three thoughts of conflict. So, these three schools of thinking: traditional, human relations, and the interactionist view. So they believed that the conflict was bad. Like traditional conflict thinkers believed that conflict was bad for business and it should be avoided at all circumstances. They tried to get rid of it by creating bureaucratic structures and policies. Conflict is a normal occurrence in all organizations, and according to the human relation theorist, it was also unavoidable. So they attempted to handle it by enhancing the organization's social system. They thought, like, if we create this particular social system in this organization where everything is fine, then probably the conflict may be controlled, but it is not, it cannot be avoided at any cost. And the interactionist view, which is also known as the modern view, thought that conflict is required to improve the organization performance. And while the human relations, which is also known as the behaviorist view of conflict, actually, they embraced conflict. The interactionists believe that a harmonious and tranquil organization will become immobile and indifferent. So, in terms of uh, uh, because of this, there would be a negative effect on the innovative part of the organization, is what the human relations believe. So in terms of like organization, there'll be like many individuals, right? There'll be many employees working. So a moderate amount of conflict, now this is again according to research, not according to me, that some amount of conflict is required for organization to be successful. So, but there should also be a proper process or an appropriate process in place that would promote and settle conflict in an organization. So it's not that a conflict has arisen, and because it's a driving force and because it helps in the success of the organization, I can't just let it go on. I also need to make sure that there are ways how the conflict could be stopped or taken care in any given point of situation in an organization. So this was about conflict. In the next class, we'll be doing the conflict management and strategies of conflict. Any questions or doubts?
No, ma'am, no.
Okay, so today we have done 3 units actually. Unit 15, I think, contingency theories of leadership, then 16 and 17. So I'm just going through the chat. Somebody is asking me to explain in Telugu. I'm sorry, my Telugu is not so good, and I was told that this is the English medium class. But if you're having any doubts, you can just check with me later. Okay, so I am done. Then I will see you all in the next class. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.